All right. Thank you everyone so much for joining day 2 of our Spring Designer Academy. Today we are talking about creating organized proposals and streamlining operations. We have some great topics we're going to cover today. I'm Andy Nelson. I work on the product marketing team with Abby. Abby is one of our senior product marketing managers. So I will turn it over to Abby to get started. We can dive right in.
Amazing. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, just a little bit about what we're going to cover today. First, we're going to start walking through contracts. Then we're going to talk through getting to the point of sending a proposal to your client, creating invoices from those proposals, collecting online payments. And then I'm going to pass it over to Andy to talk about some of our financial features. So we're going to be covering QuickBooks Online, time and expenses, and the Gusto integration as well. And something that we wanted to mention, if you feel like you need some extra support learning Houzz Pro, we have an amazing partnership with Davis Interiors. They're one of our customers on Houzz Pro, and they've created a course for designers to learn their processes and how they run Houzz Pro for their business. So if you're interested in that, definitely take a look. It's kind of that next level of learning for you. So feel free to look into that. We can send a link in the chat in just a bit so you can learn a little bit more about that. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and dive in so we can talk about the contracts feature. So just one second and I will share my screen with y'all. Okay. Can you guys see my screen okay, Andy?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So where we're going to start for today is contracts. So depending on where you're at in your process for your project, contracts could come at the very beginning. Maybe you send some initial concepts out and then you get to the point of contract. No matter where you want to fit this into your process, contracts is available for our custom SKU pricing tier. So if you're on custom SKU, you will have access to this. If you are on one of our lower pricing SKUs, you will not have access to this. But just want to show you kind of how this works. It's going to be a lot like DocuSign. So you're going to be able to upload your contract, copy and paste all the details in, and then send that out to your client for signature. Now, up at the top right, I'm going to press new contact. There's a few options here. You can start a new one from scratch. You can upload an existing contract, and you can also start from a template. So once you get past the point of building your first contract, you're going to be able to templatize that and reuse that over and over on your future projects. Now, I'm going to show you what it looks like to create one from scratch. It's going to automatically pull in all of the important details. So it's going to go ahead and pull in all of your information, the client information for that project, your logo as well. So you can see here, my client for the project is Lex Anderson. All of those details are kind of pre-loaded in for you. So you'll see I have my logo already put onto the screen, and now I can enter in all of the details in my contract, alternatively copy and paste the different line items. So you can kind of format this exactly how you want. So for example, my general conditions, maybe I want that to be in bold and I want that to be larger. You can kind of tweak and adjust and modify this document to look exactly how you want it to look. Now, once it's kind of fully baked out, it's going to look a lot more like this, right? So you have all of the different sections broken out. It's explaining through, what your deposit requirements are, what returns are, all of those fun details. And you can actually send this over to your client for review. Now, let me go into one that is a draft. I apologize, I got into the wrong one. But up at the top right, there's a couple of key things for you. So smart text is going to be super powerful for you. It is going to reference details that you have already put into your Houzz Pro account for this specific project. So the project name, if there's a budget associated with the overall project that you've loaded in, the address for the project, etc., you can automatically bring all of that information directly in. So let's say, for example, I want to replace this piece right here with the address. I'm just going to go to Smart Text, Project, click address line 1, and it's going to automatically pull in the client's address for this project. Now, you can also do that with things like the client name, their email address, details about your company, the date, and then also documents. So if you have a proposal payment that you want to include so that you know the all-encompassing dollar value for the project, you can pull that directly in from a document. And then also the e-signature component as well. You can bring in a full company signature, a full client signature. You can have blocks with just your company initials or your client's initials. So there's kind of the twofold there, right? Full signatures and those actual initials. And you can incorporate those wherever you'd like throughout the actual agreement. So you can see here, I'm just clicking right here. After this portion, I want the client to initial, and I also want myself to initial, right? You can kind of build this up to be exactly what you want it to be. And then down at the very bottom, it's going to have your full signatures. Now, something else important to note here is going to be this activity stream. You can see when it was opened, when it was shared initially, what the status is. So you can kind of really get granular and track and understand what's going on with this contract at any given point. Now, up at the top, there's a few different options here. So you can duplicate this. If you want to duplicate this contract out to another project, save it as a template. Once you do it once, you don't want to have to repeat work, right? So when you save that initial contract as a template, you can use that over and over again on future projects. Now, the contracts are going to push automatically into your client dashboard. You can also download a copy of them as well, or send a direct link if you need to text that to your client. But when you publish that to your client dashboard, if for some reason you need to remove it, you would do so from here as well. So when you have this document well prepared, ready to send to your customer, up at the top right, when you hit preview, you can see exactly what your client is going to experience, what they're going to see exactly where they're going to be prompted to sign, and just do a quick gut check before you send this off to your client. Now, like I said, you can download, share the link, and then also hit send. Now, everything's going to go ahead and come into this email by default, but you can also set up template messaging so that way you can share the language that you want to use every time you send a contract out. So similar to the rest of the Houzz Pro system, you're going to be able to templatize that and make it a custom branded on voice experience for your clients from the very beginning of the project when you're actually doing that contract. Okay. Another thing that was recently added to our contracting feature is requesting a deposit while you are on here. So this one is already sent, so I can't do it on that one. So I'm going to switch over to this guy. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So play pretend, there's a full contract here. I need to collect a retainer for it, right? Up at the very top, I can click request deposit on a draft contract. Now I know that I need a $10,000 deposit on this project. And I need that by the end of the month if I want everything going smoothly. So I can put in the name of the payment, retainer request, add a description. If you're offering online payments, which we highly recommend you should, so that you can go ahead and get those payments in the door as quickly as possible, you can choose how you want the processing fee to be applied. Do you want it to go to your overall markup? Do you want your client to pay it? Or do you want to deduct it from the payment that you're receiving? Usually recommend having your client pay it. And then what this is going to do for you is at the same time as you're making your contract, you're also creating a retainer request. So if you've used retainers inside Houzz Pro before, it's going ahead and creating that retainer for you as well. So you're going ahead and connecting the dots to both of those things, and you'll see my retainer request is automatically created for that $10,000. Now, I know that there's probably some of you in the room who are not on our custom SKU and don't have access to contracts, but don't worry, you can still collect a retainer. You can just go to the retainers feature down at the bottom, create a new retainer from scratch, and send off for that $10,000 as well. So we've got the retainer again. I'm going to type in that I need $10,000, and then you can go ahead and send that to your client, collect payment, and then you'll be able to actually use this retainer to apply to those future invoices. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this one as paid. We're going to play pretend here that I've got paid for this retainer by check. And then I'll show you how that translates out in just a few minutes as we continue to dive through. So that's kind of the gist of getting from contract and retainer. I know yesterday you guys went through kind of the selections experience and what it looks like to actually build those boards and how those appear. So we're actually going to go back to that to walk you through how you go from selection boards to a proposal for your client. Now I'm going to pause here Andy, do we have any questions so far that I need to cover?
We do not yet.
Okay.
If anyone does have questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section and we will get them answered.
Okay, fantastic. Also, I'm so sorry. I just realized that the screen didn't share to my retainers and credits screen. Let me share that with you so I can show you that one more time. Let's just do my full window. Here we go. Now I can show you. So that retainer and credits, I just went down here to the bottom. I clicked retainers and credits. I created a new one from scratch right here. I put in my dollar amount. So like I said, if you don't have access to the contracts feature, that's okay. You can still use retainers and credits and create that just by typing in the amount that you need and sending that to your client. It'll pull in the client information. It pulls in your project information, your company information as well. And then you can send that off to the client. So that kind of went through the full flow, and then I marked it as paid so that we can use that later on. So I have this one that I just created. It's paid. And now I'm going to be able to apply this amount to my future invoices. Now, like I mentioned, you guys have already kind of gone through selection boards yesterday. So I'm going to take this a next step for you, right? What we typically find is that designers are wanting to get like that next final for sure layer of approval before they're actually purchasing items for their client. And so what we recommend is going from selection boards and then going into a final proposal with all of the items listed out for your client to review and approve. So for example, I'm going to open the sitting room mood board or sitting room selection board that I have here. And we're going to convert the final items onto an actual proposal for final approval, signature, collect that payment, and then we can start ordering, right? So there's one way to do this is up at the top right. I'm going to hit convert, and then it's going to show me all of the items that have not already been included on a proposal in this specific board. Now, I know for sure this item has not been included on a board previously, but I can also look at the items in my other boards that haven't been included on a proposal yet and choose to include those. Like I want to choose just these guys and go ahead and convert everything over to a proposal. So that way I can get that final sign off from my client. You can include both the board you're looking at and the other boards that are included in this project. So I also have this sofa in the living room I want to include. I can put all of that batch together. Now, up at the top, the state is going to show you the things that are approved, all the things that are pending. Ideally, if it's already been approved, you can go ahead and put it on a proposal and move towards collecting payment from your client, right? But you can also do the same thing, organizing by the vendor and then also the specific category. So you can get kind of granular here and find just the information that you want to include. Maybe you need a lighting proposal, right? You can filter and view all the lighting across all your boards and then create a proposal for just that. So super powerful, just those few functionalities right here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit convert, and that's going to bring all of those items from my selection boards that I wanted to include on a proposal and pull that into the proposal for me. I'm not typing in information. I'm not doing any duplicate entry. When I clipped this sconce many moons ago, it is now carried through the full project. The product link is still with it. All of the pricing, all of the details is all carried all the way through for that specific sconce and every other item that I have included on this proposal. And so that's one way to get you from selections to the proposal. I'm going to back up and show you the second way to get from selections to the proposal, and that's going to be the selections tracker. Now, we're going to get really into the weeds on the selections tracker tomorrow on tomorrow's Academy, but just for quick purposes of today, I can show you what this looks like from the tracker. Now, you can use all of the different organization methods, filters, sorts, etc., to see exactly the information that you want to see. But all you do is check the items you want to include, and then you're going to be able to convert them onto an actual document. So you can push those into a proposal as well. So I'm going to look for my draft items really quick that are not included on anything. And let's see, these two items I want to convert to a proposal. So those two items, I'm going to go ahead and push them into proposal. And then it's going to look exactly like the proposal that I just created when I converted it from the selection board. So exact same concept. All of the information carries over. It's just two different places that you can go from selections to your actual proposal. Now, I'll go back to the one that has more pretty stuff on it and just kind of walk you through a little bit of orientation to what you're looking at on a proposal, right? So up at the top left, company information, top right, client information. That's pretty consistent throughout Houzz Pro. You're going to see that through and through. Now, naming can be a huge help when you have many proposals on a project. You can kind of get granular, name this exactly what you want, develop your own custom naming mechanism internally, and name that proposal exactly how you want it to show up so that it's searchable and easy for you. You can also adjust the actual code. So if you want to tweak how that proposal code looks, you can tweak and adjust and make that look exactly how you want to as well. Now, like I mentioned, all of those items are automatically pulled in for you from that selection board. And then up at the top right, if there's information you do or don't want to see on your view, you can customize right here using the customize menu and tailor and view exactly what you want to see on your screen. Maybe you don't care about what the room is right now because you're just kind of going down the list and making sure that you have everything. You can turn that off. If you don't want to see the shipping right now, you probably do, but you can turn that off as well. And you can also make your own custom columns. So if there's something consistent that you need to know across all of these products, you can create your own custom column and detail all of that information inside the proposal as well. Now, I mentioned that's how you customize it for yourself. You can also customize it when you share it with the client, which I will get into in just a moment. So one other thing that I wanted to point out, that logo, if you uploaded your company logo, that's going to go ahead and log in right here for you. So that will be loaded in as well. Now, over on the right-hand side, this is going to be a lot like our selections tools. You have access to all of the different catalog items that you have already clipped and added into your system. So if you need to add something that maybe wasn't included during the selections process, but is something that you need to get onto this proposal for your client, you can actually use my items right here on the right. That's going to show you all of the things that are in your library or have previously been saved to your project. So maybe you clipped this lantern and they were going back and forth on it, but now they actually decided they want to include that on the project. You can just click and that's automatically going to add into that project, and we can change that approval status from right here, and it's going to reflect out throughout the entire system. So building that proposal can be really, really simple. You can do it from those My Items. You can also type and search for the specific item that you're looking for. Maybe I know that this piece of art I want to include. I can go ahead and search for the exact product name and find that and add that directly to my estimate or to my proposal. So this proposal, you can build it any way that you want. Now, I've done this using items. You can also build proposals for more broad strokes, right? I anticipate to spend $4,000 on a sofa. I anticipate to spend $3,500 on the kitchen island pendants, right? Like you can kind of be more broad strokes, or you can get granular and use those actual products. I'll dive into how you create a proposal from scratch as well in a minute. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. So down at the bottom, it's going to be totaling up the total of all of your items, totaling up your markup, your shipping costs, everything's going to be captured here. And it's even going to calculate that sales tax for you as well. So I've got Fayette County sales tax where I live loaded in as the tax rate for my overall project. And so that's going to go ahead and default into the system for me as well. Another way that you can do defaults is under the markup. So if you need a default markup across all products, you can set a default by going to that markup column, the drop down, and then setting a default value. So that's going to apply to every line, or if you want a default markup for just a specific set of items, you can select the ones that you want to change the default markup for, and you can update just those selected items as well. So a couple of ways for you to kind of tweak and adjust and play with your markup for sure. Beneath that is going to be your payment schedule. So we have sent the client the initial selections. We have taken them onto an actual proposal. Now it's time to get to ordering and we need them to pay, right? So you can set up a payment schedule right here on the proposal itself so that you can kind of pre-plan out exactly what you are going to be charging your client and when. Now, me personally, I say collect 100% up front, right? But you can kind of make those rules unique to your business and tweak and adjust this payment schedule however you see fit for your business. You can go ahead and preset the due date, etc. And all of this information is going to carry over onto the client's dashboard. So once they pay the deposit, for example, they're going to see that they have another payment upcoming on X date. And it's really, really simple to just add all of those details in. You can set your own payment terms, like, is it due on receipt? When is it due? You can kind of tweak and adjust and make this your own. Now, something important here is that you can save this as a default. So that way you do this consistently for every project, right? If every project you want to do 60% upfront and 40% on delivery, go for it. You can do that. You can truly make this your own. Now, below that, attaching files. So if there's files that you need to attach to this proposal, you could do that as well. Terms and conditions, obviously, for things like damages and returns, you're going to want to maybe reiterate that information from your contract. You can put all of that information in, save it as a template, so that way you can use that on every single future proposal, just for consistent brand language and a consistent experience. Now, below that is the memo. So maybe there's a memo that you want to include. Same thing, you can template that. So it's the same thing every time. Your client gets the same experience no matter who they are and no matter who's sending the proposal, someone junior, someone senior. It's all the same consistent messaging. And then beneath that is going to be the signature field. So if you want to collect an actual signature on this document, you can do that and send that to your client as well. And beneath that is going to be that activity stream. So you're going to be able to track, when was it opened? What are they doing on this? Has the client seen it yet? All of that information is going to be available to you in real time. Now let's talk a little bit more about the client. So when you're ready, you have your proposal built out. It looks beautiful. When you hit that preview button, this is where you control what your client sees. So we have super, super client-friendly approvals, and you can show them only the information that you want to include. If you want to share the markup transparently with them, you can. If you don't, that's okay. If you want to show them what room each thing is going in, you can do that, and it's automatically going to bring in the room here. If you need them to know that some decisions are still pending, you can include the status. Like, hey, I do still need a final decision on this. And then they're going to be prompted with an approval or a decline button. And they can choose from this point of the proposal. So that way they can have that final say so. Now, like I said, you can tweak and tailor this exactly how you want. So that way your client can approve or decline. A really popular one is going to be approval per line item. So if you do need another approval on every single line, you can do that here, or you can turn that off. If you already know, I'm confident they've approved all this in selections, this is more of an FYI proposal, you can totally do that. And so you can just turn off approve per line item and send this off to your client. Now, you can send this to the client by downloading it, by sending a link and maybe sending them a text, an email, etc., or you can send it directly from the system. So if you send it from the system, it's going to auto-populate their contact information, your contact information. You can create a subject line, a custom message, and then again, template that message. So that way you can use that same consistent branded messaging over and over and over again. And then when you're ready, you just hit send, and that's going to send off to your client either an email or text message or both. So you could get to completely choose if you're sending it directly from Houzz Pro. Now, there's a lot of information there, but when your client receives it, they're going to be able to review it in their client dashboard. They can also comment on it. If they have a question about something, they can have a conversation with you and ask questions about the proposal. Ideally, they don't ask questions about the proposal, right? And you're just smooth sailing, but not everything always goes to plan. So they do have an opportunity to comment and ask questions to you. And you can also have conversations with your team that are entirely private to your team. If you need to have back and forth, like, hey, I need you to review this, you can ping a team member and have them review the proposal for you. Now, post sending this to the client, when they've approved it, you're going to be notified as soon as they approve it and also when you receive the payment. So if you have set up a payment schedule on this proposal, you're going to get notified the second that they have payment so that you can get to ordering of all those items that are soon to be out of stock, right? So you can go ahead and move that whole process forward. And we definitely recommend using online payments for that whole process because, like I just said, things go out of stock like crazy, right? And so the second that you receive payment, you can instantly transfer that to your bank for a fee, and then you can keep the process moving forward, right? So super, super helpful there. Now, one other thing that I want to point out real quick is just the automations. So you can set up next step triggers. So create an invoice when the proposal is approved, create a task when a proposal is overdue, send client reminder emails, send thank you messages, etc. You can set all of those automations up inside of your proposal so that you're really building a system that works for you and doesn't cause you to have to do extra work. Now, up at the top, if you need to create different documents from this document, you can do a lot with this. You can create invoices from here. So if you don't want a payment schedule on this overall total estimate, and you instead want to invoice specific items at a time, you can create invoices from specific line items. You can also create a change order. So if there's a change and you need to log it, you can use the change orders to do that. And then also purchase orders, which I know will be covered deeply tomorrow, but it's all going to carry this information through the full system, right? You clipped this information and then you've created those selection boards, you've gotten approval. Now it's at the point of proposal. All of the information is carried over. And now tomorrow you're going to learn about pushing that all the way through to the actual procurement process by using those change orders, those purchase orders. So it kind of goes full circle. So I'm going to pause there. Do we have any questions before I show how you create a proposal from scratch?
Yes, we do have a couple questions. Going back to selections, can you convert items on a mood board to a selection board?
So if you have a mood board, it's going to save the item to the appropriate room. And so when you create a new board, for example, let's just say this is dining room. Hopefully I don't have one called dining room already. I am going to see in my items, the items that are already in the dining room. So if I have clipped something and used it on a mood board in the dining room mood board, it will show for me here. It's not automatically going to pull over for you because you could have put things on your mood boards you don't want to propose at this level, at this stage of the project. And so you can choose to bring items in from there. And my recommendation is to always look here. Don't pull from in my library unless it's something that's never been used on the project. If it's already been used on the project, you're going to want to pull it from here. It's not in any room, but it is in my project or in the actual room that you're working with.
Amazing. Thank you. We have two other questions. Will vendor pricing update automatically if it is changed since originally selecting it weeks prior?
Vendor pricing does not update automatically. When you clip it, that information is static. It's scraping that web page at that point, and it is saving it at that point. So you will have to manually update.
Got it. Mm-hmm. And one last one. Do payments disappear after progress invoices are sent out?
They do not disappear after progress invoices are sent out. I don't think. I'm thinking that you're asking about, you have a payment schedule on here. And then if you are marking one as paid, let me get to a different example. Let's see. So you're asking if they disappear. So like once this is paid, for example, and I want to, for example, apply my retainer. I want to apply $7,244.99 of my retainer that we collected earlier together. When I hit done, it's going to show like this. So it's going to show paid. It has it right there. And then it's not disappearing, but it's still there. It's just done. Hopefully that's what you're asking about. But let us know if it's not, and we'll come back to it later.
Sounds good. I think that's it right now.
Okay. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like to create a proposal from scratch. So what we just walked through is going from selections to a proposal, but you can also start one from scratch. So from the proposals feature, I'm just going to hit new proposal at the top right and then choose from scratch. Now, this is going to be super helpful if you're doing one of those broad strokes types estimates where you're trying to kind of estimate what things are going to cost. Maybe I'm planning to have a custom sofa and I know that that is going to be, let's say $4,500. I can go ahead and put that in right here as an item, even though it's not an actual product, right? You can kind of get the gist and be able to propose to your client exactly what something is going to cost. So I just typed in line down here exactly what I wanted and went ahead and put that in my proposal. Now, custom sofa is actually a really good example. I want to walk you through something called groups that we have. So I'm going to click that custom sofa and I'm going to hit create group. So I actually want to change that to the group name. But what groups is going to do is allow you to combine multiple components together. So I have custom sofa is my group name. Now I want to add my frame. Then I want to add beneath that, I want to add the back cushion. I want to add the seat cushion, etc. Hopefully you kind of get the gist of where I'm going with this, right? And so what this is doing is creating a multiple component group for me. So I can show my client custom sofa, but not show them all the breakdown of how much the frame costs, how much the back cushion costs, how much the seat cushion costs, right? I can show them just that high level. You can turn this on and show that to your client, but by default, you don't show that to your client. So they're just going to see this high level custom sofa, $4,500, but they don't ever have to know all the nitty gritty that goes down into it, right? All the arms, the legs, the upholstery fabric, the trim, etc. That's just going to overwhelm them. And so you can show them just the information that you want to share with them by using groups. And you can do so just by hitting create group. That's going to start a new group for you, or you can kind of group things together by using the checkbox and add those things together. So for example, drapery, that can be another one. That's my other group. I can upload an image as my thumbnail and get as granular as I want as I am building that out for my client. Okay, any questions about that, Andy?
We do have a question. This goes back to selections, confirming that we pull products from selection board.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you can convert from selection boards or the tracker. So either one you can start from. So let's say we go to this living room. I can go to that board. I can select the items that I want to convert. And then I just hit this convert button and I can go ahead and push those into a proposal or directly into an invoice.
Great,
so you
thank
can do
you.
that from there and from that actual selections tracker.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. One other thing that I wanted to point out is up in the project details. So you can actually set the tax. So under project settings, I can set the default tax rate for the overall project. So that way that's not something that you have to do over and over. You can do that once and kind of set it and forget it and use that for all of your future proposals and financial documents. So again, just underneath the project name, project details, and then project settings, you can set that default tax rate so that it can apply to your future documents. Okay, so going back into proposals, let's talk a little bit more about invoicing. So there's a few different ways that you can invoice in Houzz Pro. You can invoice directly from the proposal, and you can also invoice from time and expense. Andy's going to cover the time and expense piece in just a minute, but for purposes of going from a proposal to an invoice, I just want to dive in a little bit more into what that looks like. So I have this proposal here that I've already partially invoiced for. And I can do a couple of different things, right? Like I mentioned earlier, you can set up that payment schedule for exactly what you want to pay out. And you can also create invoices for specific line items. I think I ended up on the wrong one. I apologize. Let's see, that one. Yeah, I think this is going to be the right one. Nope. Sorry, guys. Got too many versions here. I've copied myself out. So what I can do here is check the items that I want to create an invoice from, and then hit create invoice up at the top right. So if I need to invoice for just the lighting or just the outdoor furniture or just the case goods, you can tweak and adjust and create an invoice for just those specific items. So when I hit that button, it goes ahead and creates that invoice for me from that original source proposal. So that allows you to go ahead and create the invoice, send this to your customer, collect payment on just the things that matter right now. And again, it's automatically pulled in my tax rate from the project settings, and then I can send this directly to my client. Now you can split this out into scheduled payments if you want to get granular on the actual invoice. If maybe you want them to pay 50% now, 50% later, because it's a custom item, you can go ahead and change that payment schedule to be whatever you want it to be. It can also be 100% upfront, like I said. and you can tweak and adjust and really make that what you want it to be. So you're going to have visibility into what has been paid, what's outstanding, and it's really going to help you to kind of reduce chasing payments all the time, right? Everything's connected, everything's in one place. You're able to schedule it out if you want to, and then everything carries over throughout the entire proposal to invoicing process. And the key here is that no matter which invoicing method you're using, whether you are billing directly off of the proposal, billing off of an invoice created from the proposal, or billing off of time and expenses, all of those will live on the client dashboard for your client so that they have real-time access to exactly what they owe. When you push that information to them, they immediately know, I owe this and I need to pay this, right? And so that information is going to be available to them on their client dashboard. Now I'm going to pause. Is there any questions? And then we'll move into time and expenses with Andy.
Yes, we have a question from Maureen. Can I show the individual items in a group without showing the individual prices? I would like the group price only.
You would like the group price only. That is a good question. Let's figure it out together. Let me get back to my example that had one on there. So I'm thinking that it's probably a no. Andy, if you know, feel free to interrupt me. Let's just pretend that that's that. And let's pretend that that's 1,200. Sure. Forgive my funny math. But we are going to share, you're wanting to share the actual items, but you're not wanting to share the actual cost. So I can, no, that would be hiding the entire column. Let's see when we preview it, what it's going to do for us. No, I don't think you're going to be able to do that because it's going to show you all of the detailed pricing if you think it's all or none. So you share the item and the price, or you don't share the item at all. But I can definitely share that with our product team as feedback. Maybe there's something that we can do to kind of make that separate.
Great. And then we have two other questions. I want the cost to reflect the net price, then add the markup. I don't see where I can propose the sell price to the client.
So your cost is what you are paying for the product. So I am paying $1,200 for the frame, right? Then your markup is how much you're marking up from your cost to what your client is paying. And then your unit cost is going to combine all of those things together. So let's say 15% markup, then that is the total of everything together. So that is essentially your selling price. And if you prefer, you could change this to say selling price, if that's helpful.
Great. And last question right now, can you create an invoice on 50% of a line item? So going back to progress invoicing.
Yes, you can do that. I believe so, right, Andy? I know you can on
you should be able to do it by percentage or dollar amount. Or
that's what I'm thinking. Create invoice. That created the full invoice though. Let's see. We should be able to do progressive invoicing, right, Andy?
I believe it has to be turned on.
Oh, you got to turn it on.
That's what I thought. Yes.
Let me see. Let me get to that. Sorry, y'all. Let's see. Business documents. You're right. It does. Accounting. And then features. Let's see. Progressive invoicing. So if you go to your settings and then go to business documents, there's under business documents right here, you can turn on progressive invoicing, and that's going to allow you to invoice a percentage of items for the individual lines. So I turned that on. Now we go back into my project and we go back into my proposal. And now I can actually create an invoice for just a percentage of a line item. So we're going to go to this guy. Fantastic. Let's find an item that hasn't been invoiced. And let's pretend that this is custom and I need an invoice for 50% of it. I check that, I hit create invoice, and now I can do by percentage. You can also do percentage per line item too. So if we did both of these items and hit create invoice, but I need 50% of this and I need 100% of this, you can tweak, tailor, and adjust. And again, this will be available to you if you turn on progressive invoicing under your settings, under business documents. You can turn this functionality on. By default, it's not on, but you can do that. So when I hit create invoice, it's carrying that information through. And then I have visibility into this has been billed 50%, this has been billed 100%. And even if I go back to the original proposal, it's going to show me that information as well. So you can see all of these things have been invoiced 100%. And now this specific item has been invoiced 50, but this one's 100. This one's still 0. So you can track and see the percentage of what's been invoiced versus what hasn't.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Andy, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you to chat about time and expenses and QuickBooks and all the fun financial pieces.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Give me 1 second and I will get my screen share going. All right. Can everyone see my screen, my Houzz homepage?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Let's talk about time and expenses. We actually have revamped our time experience. So you will see, you will eventually see in your account, if you are not yet part of our beta group, here from our left navigation bar, you can see we've now split out time and expenses. This will be the same for projects. A side note, if you would like to be a part of the new time experience beta group, feel free. I'm just going to drop in the chat my email. Feel free to email me directly and we can add you to that and you can test it out, give us feedback and let us know how you like it. But what I'm going to show you first is in the new time experience, setting up activities and rates and managing your time entries. So if we come over here to the gear, we'll come up under company settings to time management. What were previously called services are now called activities. You can see here that I have several activities set up. I've assigned them to specific team members and I've assigned rates. So you can archive these. You can create new activities right here and you can assign them to team members. So, you know, we could put, we'll just say travel time. And you can put your default cost in if you have a markup. And then you can assign them to all your team members, to single team members, whatever you decide. So coming over here, what I'll show you, so we've got a great new feature that we have with our new time experience is approving and declining time entries. So you can see here, I have time entries for 2 team members. This one has been approved. I can go back, I can reset this to no status at all. I can decline it. This ties into our upcoming Gusto payroll integration. I will touch on that shortly, but you've got the ability to approve and decline time entries. And then you've also under, let's see, under team members, you can set up team members with those permissions. So we can look here at this team member. I can turn on time entry so they can add time entries or expense entries and also time management. So say this team member is allowed to approve time entries for another team member, you can turn that on here in their team member profile. And let's go back to our time entries. You can still, just like you currently can, create time billing invoices. So if I come over here, I select this time entry, and then I can go ahead and create an invoice from scratch or add to an existing invoice. And now this team member's time entry is on an invoice that you can then send to your client. expense entries. Something that we rolled out not too long ago, a few months ago, is expense sync to QuickBooks. Obviously, I'm going to touch on the QuickBooks integration shortly, but you can see, again, expense entries are now broken out separately from time. I've got all my different expense entries here. If I went to create a new expense entry, I'm doing this obviously from the global section. If you're doing it within the project, it's going to default to the project that you're working in. But I can go ahead and I can add my expense entry. You can add, we'll call it mileage. And then if you're using cost codes, you can select that here. You'll see the cost. And then you've got the ability to sync this to QuickBooks. Again, with time and expense entries, you can invoice by selecting whichever expense entries you need to select, and then create your invoice right here. And let's see, with the new time experience, a big thing, we got so much feedback from our pros wanting the ability to approve or decline time entries. So it's going to give you visibility into labor costs. It's going to give you reduced, you're not going to be missing billable hours, and you're able to support hourly and hybrid billing models. If I come back over here to time, and if I'm looking at activities and rates, you can set up here in your time management screen you can turn on your approvals. So if approvals are required for team members, you can also set up if you have overtime. Again, this ties into our Gusto payroll integration, which I'll dive into later. But we've just really beefed up our time management. So again, if you're interested in being part of the beta group, please feel free to email me directly. I'll add you. We can set up time after you've had a little bit of time to play around with it, set up time to get feedback and just see what's working and what's not working. Do we have any questions about time and expense?
So Tiffany asked, I put all of my receipts under expenses. Is that going to be the best practice?
Yes. So the reason and part of why we introduced the expense sync to QuickBooks is so you don't have to go and do a purchase order. If you're running into a home goods or you're running into a retail store to buy some staging items or something to that effect, you don't have to go through the process of creating a purchase order, recording payment, then getting that to sync to QuickBooks. You can upload your receipts as needed. If you're doing it from your mobile, great, and add those into your expense section. If you're integrated with QuickBooks, those will push over to QuickBooks if you choose to turn that on or choose to sync that expense to QuickBooks. But yes, your expenses should be entered in the expense section.
Awesome. What about business expenses related to the business, but not the client?
So this is going to be just our expense entry is just going to be for project related. If you're talking about, meals and entertainment or office expenses, Apple, music subscription, things like that, gas, if you're using QuickBooks, you'll want to enter those directly into your QuickBooks account or into your accounting software.
Okay. And then is tracking salaried employees that have to go on site possible to calculate in time management?
Yes, you can. You can track salaried employees if you're just wanting to track their time. Essentially, it kind of plays into the Gusto integration. If you plan on using the Gusto integration, that employee would be, for example, that employee would be set up as a salaried employee. So you don't have to sync their time entries from Houzz to Gusto. But yes, absolutely. If it's a salaried employee and you want to see how much time they're spending on each project, I would track their time. And then you can determine how you want to set their rate up, whether it's divided by whatever formula you want to use. to set up their hourly rate. But again, they're salaried, but yes, you can track their time, definitely.
Awesome. And then Janice, I believe that Andy will cover the QuickBooks and expense portion during her QuickBooks section. So we'll get to that. And then Lisa, I'm responding to you in the chat, just taking me a minute to type through it all.
Yes. All right. So QuickBooks integration. For those of you not using our QuickBooks integration, I actually served before coming to the product marketing team. I served as one of our QuickBooks integration experts for many, many years. So I know the integration very well. If you're not connected to QuickBooks, coming over here to the left navigation bar to our financial suite, you'll see QuickBooks Online dashboard here under accounting. And then it's pretty simple. There's a short 3-minute video, you'll hear me talking, that shows you how to connect and how to do your mapping. And then a couple little QuickBooks housekeeping points that you want to make sure your sales tax is set up in QuickBooks, and some settings to adjust on the QuickBooks side. Once you are connected, very, very important. This is where I see sometimes issues happen. Once you connect Houzz and QuickBooks, you want to make sure you do your mapping immediately. Before I talk about the dashboard, I'm going to come over here to our settings. So you'll see I've got a sync date. Let's say I just connect Houzz and QuickBooks today, and I want to sync Houzz documents and payments and transactions going back to January 1st. I can backdate this to 1/1/26, but you absolutely want to make sure you do your mapping first. So we've got tons of little info bubbles so you can understand exactly what this is, what is, payment mapping, whether you want retainer payments and deposit payments counted as a liability in QuickBooks, or you can record them as unapplied cash income. You've got the option here. You can turn off purchase order sync to QuickBooks. You can turn off change order sync. You can choose to sync or not sync expenses to QuickBooks, completely up to you. This is all called out in that short little video that I mentioned on the connection page. And then coming over here, very important, your account mapping. This is how you, as the user, are dictating how everything flows from Houzz Pro into QuickBooks. So you've got your deposit account. Maybe all of my payments, my online payments in Houzz go into my Wells Fargo checking. You've got your liability account if you choose to track proposal payments and retainer payments as a liability. You've got your bill payment account. So when you're paying a expense or you're paying a vendor via PO, you can dictate, okay, well, I always write checks from my Wells Fargo checking. I typically pay vendors from my Citibank card, but I also use my Amex card sometimes. So you've got down here additional payment method options. This was something that was asked for many years. If you're using our integration, you've used it for a while, this was something that pros wanted for a very long time. So we now have that. You can track your vendor paid tax from purchase orders. If you pay tax to a vendor, that can go into its own separate account in QuickBooks. And then you've got your payable account, which is tracking your vendor bills and your vendor payments. Up here under products, we've got our default product mapping. So any invoices that you create, you've got your default sales, Houzz Pro product, sales of product, income, whatever you'd like to put here if you don't want to use our default. This can be cost of goods sold. And then you've got your custom mapping. So you can actually, let's say I want all of my electrical items I've tied to the electrical category in Houzz Pro. I created in QuickBooks electrical income and electrical cost of goods sold. I can custom map that. So when I run a profit and loss report in QuickBooks, I see sales of product income, electrical income, flooring income. It just gives you that granular view of where your income and expenses are going. And we have the same over here for services. And let's see. Oh, sorry. So sorry. Let me jump over to the dashboard. How do you know if everything is syncing or not syncing? You've got your QuickBooks Online dashboard. This obviously shows up to date right here. If I had any sync issues or errors, you would see a red bar with a little link to click so that you could look at those sync errors and issues. And it will tell you, maybe a vendor was deactivated on the QuickBooks side. It'll give you an explanation as to what exactly is causing the sync error. Just like here on the main dashboard, this hasn't synced yet because it's a draft, and I'll dive into a couple documents to show you exactly what that looks like. But it gives you all this detail here. You can manually sync from this screen right here. View details, we've got a few options. You could turn off sync if you needed to and show related items. You can see here's the project and the customer associated with this invoice. Now, if we come up over here, we've got a proposal. So you saw that, let's see, 1 cent paid or issued, this will automatically sync with QuickBooks. So when you create a document, the sync is not instant. It sits in draft mode like this proposal right here, and it says not ready for sync. Now I could, if I wanted to, sync the draft version. It's a manual way of pushing it over. Outside of that, if I approve it, if my client approves it, it syncs to QuickBooks. If I record a payment, it's going to sync to QuickBooks. If I convert this to an invoice, or if I'm working in an invoice and I issue it, if I'm working in a purchase order and I approve it or record payment, that's going to trigger the sync to QuickBooks. But again, on all of our documents, you can manually sync the draft version. And you can see here, this was synced over, and it shows that sync status indicator. If there was an error, you would see a red button here, and then ability to, you can view on QuickBooks, but you would have an ability, if there was an error, to click on it, and it will take you to the dashboard from here. Over here in QuickBooks, I'll just show you quickly. So we've got the QuickBooks Online dashboard. If anyone is familiar with this, you are connecting your bank account and your credit card to your QuickBooks account, so transactions download. The point being, Target office expense add, Apple office expense add. It just makes it easier without having to do that manual entry. So you or your bookkeeper or your admin would be coming in here, categorizing and adding all of your overhead transactions, but then you are matching your Houzz Pro transactions. Here you can see there's an expense. I want to make sure I am matching. If for any reason you come in here and you say, well, wait, $7.98, I know I entered this expense in Houzz Pro. Why is there no match? You want to make sure you troubleshoot that. Maybe you chose to not sync it to QuickBooks before you entered it, something to that effect. You want to make sure any Houzz transaction, whether it's money received or money spent, is then categorized and it's matched here. The Houzz Pro transactions are matched. The overhead transactions not in Houzz Pro would be categorized and added. Let's see. Do we have any questions?
Let me look back, Andy. What are the invoice number conventions? I guess when are they prompted so that they match on both sides? I think that's the question from Catherine.
Yes. So the default number assigned on your document, we'll just say it's 10001, is going to be the number on the QuickBooks document with an HZ at the end. It's important to note, if you use a custom number on a document, let's say that 10001, I change it to 12345. That is not going to register in QuickBooks. So you want to make sure, if you're using the QuickBooks integration, your document numbers, original document numbers, when you create a document in Houzz, are going to line up with the same number in QuickBooks with the HZ on the end.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. I've got a question from Allison about Gusto, but we'll get to Gusto in a minute, right? So we should get back to that.
Yep.
Kimberly, if you can clarify your question in the chat, we can definitely cover it. I'm just not sure what that one's about. And Andy, I have to jump to a call, so I'm so sorry, but Andy will run the
No
rest of the
problem.
questions. So thank y'all so much.
Yes. Of course. Thanks, Abby. All righty. So feel free to keep putting your questions in the chat, and I'll get to those after I present Gusto and then our financial reports. So Gusto, you may have heard some buzz about our upcoming Gusto payroll integration. If you're not familiar with Gusto, they are a great payroll provider. I know there's QuickBooks Time, ADP, Paychex, Harvest, several different payroll processors out there. We have decided to partner with Gusto. I have personally worked with their team for several months, and they are amazing to work with. So Gusto specializes in small to medium-sized businesses up to 500 employees. They have everything from workers' comp and 401k plans, an HR portal, benefits and payroll platform. They can write an employee manual if you need it. They are absolutely great. I highly encourage you to check them out if you don't know anything about them. We are also offering a free month of Gusto for Houzz Pro customers. So there is a link to sign up to take advantage of that offer. Again, my email is in the chat, so please email me if you're interested, if you want more information. If you have Gusto or you're planning to sign up for Gusto, you'd like to be part of our beta group, wonderful. You can see here, so over here, we will be adding to our financial suite under accounting and payroll. We will have payroll right here under QuickBooks Online dashboard and sales tax settings. And then you'll have the ability to connect to Gusto. You do obviously need to have an existing Gusto account, just like with QuickBooks. And again, you'll have links here to create a Gusto account, get that month free, or learn more about the integration. Over here, so this again ties in a bit to our new time experience. So those approval settings will play a part in it. You'll be able to set up overtime rules depending on your state. You can set up your pay period, or you'll need to set up your pay period. Oops. Set up, what your pay schedule is and when does your pay period start. Is it monthly? Is it bi-weekly? So you'll dictate all of that. You'll map Houzz Pro team members to existing Gusto employees. So the employee will still be set up in Gusto. You'll get their tax information, set them up. If there's any insurance coming out or anything like that, they are set up in Gusto. And then you map your Houzz team member to your Gusto team member. And then you set up, I think you all saw the overtime settings. So you can set exactly how overtime works. If there's double time, California, we have specific rules in regards to overtime and double time. So you can set that up here. And then you'll see here is our payroll dashboard. So you'll see if there's a sync failed, looks just like our QuickBooks integration. You can sync those time entries over. You can see approval status. You can see by pay period, summary overview, and ability to manually sync by individual time entry or by entire pay period. So very exciting. We definitely would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you because I am running this campaign for this new feature. So I would love to hear from you. Please email me if you're interested in learning more or would like to integrate your Gusto account once we launch. And I am going to jump over to financial reports, and then I'll go back to the chat to see what questions we have. So I know we're over time, so just to go through our financial reports, we've got up here, if you're taking online payments, we've got our payments report. This will also show manual payments. And then, of course, you can filter from here by manual or online payments. excuse me, and then you've got your payouts report. So what exactly was deposited at the bank, or if you took an instant payout, and it will show you the fees, the online processing fees, how those, whether the client paid them or whether they were taken out of your overall deposit at the bank. You've got your open invoices report. This works as like an accounts receivable report. Who owes me? How much do they owe me? How many days past due is that invoice that has not been paid? So that just gives you clarity on your financials. You want to make sure you're collecting that those payments in a timely manner and that clients are not going past due. We've, of course, got our sales tax liability report. If you are integrated with QuickBooks, I highly recommend comparing your tax liability report in Houzz Pro to your QuickBooks tax liability report, just to make sure, you know, everything is synced over and that your two reports are matching. And then down here, we've got our incoming transactions by project and outgoing transactions by project. So this will be, incoming will be your retainers, your invoices, your proposals, and outgoing will be your purchase orders. And of course, you've got all the different filtering options, whether you want to see paid, unpaid, all of that by project, by all projects, by a specific project. So lots of filtering options on our reports. And then of course, your time billing by team member and your time billing by project. And we, of course, with the upcoming payroll integration with Gusto, we'll have other reports coming out that will coincide with that. And then your global tracker report, which is going to pertain to your selections tracker and just gives you an overall view. And again, you can filter by project or by look at a global picture of all your projects. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so let's see. Let me get through some of these questions. Okay. Invoice numbers, QuickBooks is, okay, so QuickBooks, and one thing before I forget, QuickBooks integration. If you are new to the integration, if you've never talked to our QuickBooks support team, you get a free onboarding, a complimentary onboarding call. I highly recommend using that. Have your book, if you're not using an accountant that's like one of our accounting partners that knows the integration, you know, we have several accounting partners, utilize that complimentary integration call with your bookkeeper or accountant and get set up. You know, the team is great and they can answer all the questions that you have. Beyond that, it's an add-on to your subscription, your Houzz Pro subscription, but the QuickBooks team's great. So I highly recommend taking advantage of that complimentary call. So with the bank feed, so it's super important with the QuickBooks bank feed, everything that happens, money in, money out on your bank accounts, your credit cards, all of that is going to dump into that QuickBooks bank feed. So you want to make sure your overhead items, the things you're not putting into Houzz Pro, you can categorize and add those just fine. It's the Houzz Pro transactions you want to make 100% sure that those are being matched. So as you saw in my, let me go back to my QuickBooks account. And I'll just share very quickly. Okay. So as you can see here, here's a match. This was an expense that I entered into Houzz Pro. It's synced over. Once this posted to my bank account, I see a match. If for some reason, you know, I always say, just be very careful here. Make sure if you have a bookkeeper that's handling this part, that they are very careful. You want to make sure that your incoming payments from Houzz are matched here. If you're covering the transaction fee for an online payment, then you or your accountant can click match. It takes you to a secondary screen where you would select that payment and then deduct the fee amount here. And we have a lot of resources in our help center on this. If you need more information, if you have more questions, please email me, because I know the integration inside and out. So I can definitely help if you have any questions. Gusto. So we're aiming for an end of June launch date for the Gusto integration. So take that with a grain of salt. It's a very intricate integration. It's payroll. We need to make sure all of our ducks are in a row, that everything is ready to go. So again, like Tiffany, if you are interested, please email me. I will put you on our beta list and you can test it out. You can learn, I can have a call with you. We can talk more about exactly what it entails. So yeah, we're super, super excited about it. It's really going to streamline things. And if you're using QuickBooks as well, you can connect Gusto and QuickBooks. So those journal entries for your payroll, the payroll processing fee, the salary, the payroll taxes, those just dump into QuickBooks. So it's almost like a trifecta: Houzz Pro to Gusto to QuickBooks, no manual entry. It's just all there, ready to be matched up. Yes, and let me put my email again. It's andy.nelson@houzz.com. Oops. So you all should have that there. And let's see if we have any other questions. Feel free to throw any last minute questions in. Gusto system upgrade, help us track commissions. So that is a good question. And I guess it depends on how you're structuring your commissions. I mean, obviously those would be paid out through Gusto, unless you're just paying, if you're not paying commissions like through payroll, if you're just cutting a commission check from QuickBooks or something like that. So Allison, if you want to email me, I think that would be great. That's a question that I haven't had come up yet, but that is a great question because I know a lot of people do handle commission payments through their payroll system. What does the client see when you collect a payment or request a deposit versus sending the proposal with the payments listed at the bottom? That is a good question. They should see on the document. So let's go into... Let me see if I can do this quickly and then... Okay, sorry, let me share again. Okay, so we'll just say, okay, and let me preview. So they should in their dashboard see, yeah, so you've got here, so you should see something like this, where there's a deposit and then the other payment that's upcoming. They'll see the payment schedule, however you dictate that payment schedule. They'll see that here, and if there's a deposit and all of that, and then they should be able to handle that from their client dashboard. All right. Okay, do we have any other questions before we wrap up? Let's see. Let's see, retainers. We had, we wanted to see retainers, so I can show you that in just a second. Let's see, and some of these questions will, obviously everyone's going to get a recording of the webinar. Some of these questions I'll have to circle back with you. I'll get with Abby, and she's our selections expert. So I'll get with her and make sure, you know, we get back to you via email with those answers. Retainers, why don't I end on retainers? So let's do this. Okay, retainers. So you've obviously got the option in any of your projects to create a retainer request and then send that out to your client. So retainers can be used for whatever you like, whether it's design time, you know, think of it as an attorney. You want to make sure you have a retainer and that retainer is paid for your hours in case anything happens with the project. You don't want to spend 10, 15, 20 hours for the client to back out to not get paid. But you can obviously use a retainer for anything that you like. You can use it for product, whatever you want to use it for. Let's see here. So if we create a new retainer, and this again goes into that, if you're using QuickBooks, when you take a payment, record a payment on a retainer in your QuickBooks mapping, you can dictate how that retainer payment syncs to QuickBooks, whether it sits as a liability, so it's not showing in QuickBooks as income yet, it's essentially showing as a customer deposit, or you can use in your mapping to have it as an unapplied payment. So then it does show as unapplied cash income on your financial reports in QuickBooks. But we can go ahead and say design time. And we'll just say hours. And there we go. And then you can log a payment, or the client can pay online. And then you've got that retainer available to use. So when you are in an invoice or proposal, you can, let's go down here. One of your options when you're recording payment is to apply retainer. And I don't have any retainers available, but that would be one of your options, is to apply retainer. So hopefully that answers your questions there. And yes, any other questions that we have, we'll do our best to answer those via email. We'll make sure everybody gets a response. I know we didn't get to everyone's questions. Takeoffs, I'm sure we are going through takeoffs. That I don't know if that was covered in yesterday's section or not, but today was quite a bit with all of the financial components and all of that. But I hope everyone learned quite a bit. Again, reach out to me if you have questions about Gusto, or if your question didn't get answered. But again, we will do our best to go through the chat and the Q&A and get those questions answered for you after the fact. And I hope this was helpful for everyone. We always love having these and love having you all on. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And like I said, please reach out if you have any other questions. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.